What is up, everybody? And welcome back to On the Glass Podcast. I am your host, Dakota LeBlanc, and this is episode number 3. I was kind of on the fence of what I wanted to do this week. I didn't know if I wanted to kind of follow in route of what I did in episode 2 and just go with top 10 positions or top 10 players from each position. But put a poll up on Twitter. If you're not following me on Twitter, go check it out at Dakota LeBlanc. I'll put it in the description so you can check it out. You can stay up to date on everything over there. Top 10 players at each position ended up winning. So here I am with my top 10 point guards of all time. I am going to try and shorten up this week's podcast. I want to see, I'm gonna do a little experiment for myself and see something. But yeah, so if you haven't checked out episode 2, go ahead and go check that out, because a lot of these players I'm actually going to name today were on that list of my top 25 players of all time. So if you have not checked that out, go check that out and then come back. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'll be right here. Don't worry about it. So if you haven't checked out last week's episode, I'm going to go ahead and go over my criteria and kind of like what I take into factoring where I rank these people, because here's one thing I'm going to say. My criteria is different from everyone's. Everyone has different criteria and how they rank people. And as long as you have valid criteria and you give some valid reasonings, I don't think anyone can kind of complain with your list. I mean, obviously, nobody's going to think your list is perfect. Okay? Everyone's going to have different opinions. But, I in my opinion, as long as you give a valid argument and, you have criteria backing it up that you use for everybody and you evaluate everybody, then I don't think it should be that big of a deal. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the criteria here. So, obviously I factor in all-stars, all NBAs, and all defensive teams. Those are pretty important to me. Awards, so MVP, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved, stuff like that. Championships, obviously, those are always important. All-time numbers, their career averages, and like I said in episode number 2, this one only applies to few people, but skill or impact. How did you impact the game? Some people have had bigger impacts on the game than others, and I kind of hold that one really high in my pecking order. So, without further ado, we're moving on to number 10. Number 10 is Steve Nash. And Steve Nash is one of my favorite point guards of all time. And I really love Steve Nash, but as I was kind of making my list, I originally had him higher. I actually had him at, I think, 6, I believe. But after I went back in and did a lot of research and evaluating and comparing numbers and stats and stuff like that, I had to knock him back a few spots. But these are his accolades: 8-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA, first team 3 times, second team 2 times, and third team 2 times. He's a 2-time MVP, and he also finished 3rd all-time in assist at 10,335. And I think what really kind of hurts Steve Nash in this case is obviously he doesn't have any rings. But, some of the point guards on this list don't have rings. But I think the biggest thing is his MVPs. His MVPs don't hold that much value to me because I don't want to say this in a disrespectful way, but I feel like there was more deserving players those years that could have got him. I think the 05-06 one, he averaged 18 and 10 on 50, 40, 90, while also having the number 1 seed in the West. I could be wrong on the seeding, but he did average 18 and 10 on 50, 40, 90. So, I get that one. I get that. Okay? Kobe averaged 35 that year. LeBron averaged, I think, 31. So, there were some guys there, but I get the 18 and 10 on 50, 40, 90 shooting, because I think he also had 60 wins in the West. So, I understand that one, but looking at the other one, which was 04-05, I believe, there was a lot of great guys still in the league and performing well. I think Timmy was up there in the MVP voting. Shaq in Miami was up there. There was one more guy, but I forget who it was. So, I mean, I can't really talk too much because I don't. It's hard to say who could have had the MVP over him because obviously the voting swayed towards Steve Nash for a reason, whatever that case may be. Maybe because he was on the best, he was the best player on the best team in the West. You know that was their main factor in making him MVP. But I definitely think that those MVPs don't hold as much value as other MVPs, I guess. Regardless, Steve Nash is still one of my favorite players of all time. He's definitely up there. He's one of my favorite point guards. And I think he's underrated in a sense because his accolades don't look all that great. 8-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA. And some even argue that he doesn't deserve those 2 MVPs, which I totally get. I understand, but yeah. So yeah, Steve Nash at 10. Moving on to number 9. This guy is also one of my favorite players. At number 9, I got Gary Payton, one of the shit-talking gods in NBA history. And that's why I like him. He's a tough, rowdy type of guy. Talks shit, won't back down. I like those type of guys. He was a 9-time All-Star, 9-time All-NBA, first team 2 times, second team 5 times, third team 2 times. He was 9-time All-Defense. He was first team all 9 times. He was first team defense all 9 times. He was the 95-96 DPOY. He was a 1-time champ. He was also 10th in assists all time at 8,966 and 4th in steals at 2,445. And what makes Gary Payton so special is he's one of the few guards that win DPOY. That list is not very long. Him, MJ, Moncrief, I believe. Moncrief might have had one in there. I don't know. You can fact check me on that one. I'm pretty sure Moncrief had a DPOY. But I'm pretty sure those are the only guys to do it. I could be missing someone, but I'm pretty sure those 3 guys are the only guards to win DPOY. So, I mean, he's in elite company there. And, yeah, 1-time champ, won it in Miami. Yeah, he won it in Miami. He was a key part of that team. But, I mean, yeah, I said Sean Payton. What, fucking football? Gary Payton. Gary Payton. I love that guy, man. Hell of a shit talker. And me being that type of player on the court, I guess, I kind of learned from guys like him and Kevin Garnett and all those guys that were kind of perfected the craft of shit talking. So, yeah, I love my man GP. At 8, John Stockton. 10-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA, first team 2 times, second team 6 times, third team 3 times, 5-time All-Defense. He was second team all 5 times, and he is also the all-time leader in steals and assists. He has 3,265 steals and 15,806 assists, and both of those records are not even being close to touched. It's insane how high he set the bar on those records. Like 15,000 assists is incredible. Like I don't even think there's anyone within like 2,000, 2,500 assists of him, and I don't even think there's anyone within 1,000 steals of him. Like I think it's hard to say he's underrated in a way because it's hard to say he's underrated because he didn't show up for the big games. So a lot of people say that he's kind of just I don't know where I was going with that, but he didn't show up for the big games, him or Karl Malone. Another gripe of him is he was never the guy that was going to go out there and get you 20 a night. He was like a legit point guard. Like he just ran the offense. Now, granted, he could still get you a bucket, but he's not going to get you 20 a night, 25 a night, like some of these other point guards on the list. He just wasn't. And that's not a knock on him, but I think that's some of the biggest gripes against him is A, him not showing up in big games, and B, him not being as elaborate of a scorer as some of his colleagues here on the list. But regardless, John Stockton's still one of the greats. Whether you are on that end of the spectrum where you don't think he was all that good and you think he's overrated, or whether you're on that side of the spectrum where you think he's a top 5 point guard of all time. And that's the great thing about these lists is everyone has their own opinions, and I imagine everyone's going to bring up valid reasons to why they have someone higher than someone else. And at the end of the day, all you can do is respect it. All you can do is respect it at that point. Moving on to number 7, I got Jason Kidd, 10-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA, first team 5 times, second team 1 time. He was 9-time All-Defense, first team 4 times, second team 5 times. He was the 94-95 co-Rookie of the Year with Grant Hill. They split the Rookie of the Year honors that year. He's a 1-time champion. He won that in Dallas. And he is second all-time in steals and assists. He has 2,684 steals and 12,091 assists. So he's a full 3,700 assists away from John Stockton. That just shows how great of a ball handler John Stockton was. But we're on Jason Kidd now, so let's not go back to him. But J Kidd, one of the first real, trying to figure out how to word this without being incorrect. He was kind of the start of the new hybrid type breed point guards, the guys that were playing all defensive defense on one end, but still being able to play make and score on the other end. I mean, he's 6'4", incredible frame, and he kind of set the wave for the new stereotypical point guard in the NBA. Granted, he wasn't as great a shooter as you got to be now, but you can thank that to Steph. But there for a minute, I mean, those 6'4" point guards started to become the typical stereotypical point guard you needed in the league. Tall, could play defense. Guys kind of like Lonzo Ball-esque players. They're gonna lock down one end and they're gonna run the offense on the other, and that's all you can ask. And Jason Kidd, man, I love going through and watching his passing highlights on YouTube. Incredible stuff. Like it's great watching guys like J Kidd and Steve Nash and who else, Steph and Magic, and watching all the different ways they got the ball to their teammates. Man, it's incredible stuff. Truly incredible stuff. So if you haven't watched those highlights, please do. It will not disappoint. Always love watching those highlights. It's incredible. Moving on to number 6, and this one may catch some of you by surprise. And this one also goes against what I said in episode 1 when I had to one gotta go for all-time great point guards. Number 6, I got Chris Paul, 10-time All-Star, 8-time All-NBA, first team 4 times, second team 3 times, and third team 1 time. He's 9-time All-Defense, first team 7 times, second team 2 times. He's the 05-06 Rookie of the Year. He's 7th all-time in assists and 7th all-time in steals. He has 9,607 assists with 2,220 steals. And there for a while, the argument out there was that the only one that could touch Stockton in those records was Chris Paul. Obviously, now those records look really untouchable for Chris Paul. I definitely think he can be top 5. I mean, he's super close to top 5 in assists, I believe. He's right there on the fringe of being top 5 in assists. But yeah, I mean, Chris Paul, I think, is underrated in a sense all time wise. And maybe it's because he's still playing, or maybe it's because he was kind of, I wouldn't say overshadowed in LA, but definitely the high-flying act of Blake Griffin definitely took away from what Chris Paul was doing in LA. In LA, he was still super, super good. But I think a lot of don't realize how good he was in New Orleans. I mean, he was an MVP candidate in New Orleans, playing for the Hornets. Like, Chris Paul was incredibly good. And, I mean, it's crazy to think how different his career would look right now if the trade to the Lakers wasn't vetoed. I mean, does he end up getting a ring with Kobe and Powell? I mean, who knows? Actually, was Powell part of the trade package? I don't know. I can't remember the trade package for Chris Paul. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, it's crazy to think how different his career could be looking right now if he did ended up going to the Lakers. I mean, he might have a ring, maybe some more All NBA teams, but yeah, definitely. Chris Paul underrated. I mean, like I said in episode 1, I mean, he's not called the point guard for nothing. I mean, he's legit one of the greatest point guards of all time. And if he's able to get a ring and some more All Stars and some more All NBAs, I definitely think he can be a top 5 point guard when it's all said and done. And I don't think that's a crazy statement by any means. But yeah, Chris Paul is very, 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 very good, very good. And I'm interested to see how his career finishes. He's been playing that role perfectly in OKC as a mentor to SGA. Their 3-guard rotation of him, Shai Gilgeous, and Dennis Schroeder have been putting in work this year in OKC, and they were really one of the surprises of the league. I think that with it ending, they were in like the 6th seed, I think 5 seed maybe. Yeah, OKC really shocked me this year, and I think that's in part of Chris Paul still being able to be as good as he is at the age he is after, injuries and have worn down on his body and stuff like that. So, also, let me touch on this real quick. The rumors have come up about him going to New York, and I honestly like it. I like the idea of him in New York. Obviously, he's not going to do what he was doing in New Orleans, but I think if they were to lure Chris Paul there, they could maybe make a run at another borderline star to put next to him. Obviously, this year's free agency class isn't the best. I mean, I think AD can opt out. Drummond's like one of the highlights of this class, which, I mean, Drummond could possibly go to New York. It'd be Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan 2.0, but, I mean, Andre Drummond's better, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see. I would like to see him stay in OKC. Seems like I had a good thing going there, but ultimately, at that point, one's got to go between Schroeder and SGA. SGA is still young and energetic. Schroeder's going to get the bag for being a 6-man. But yeah, all right. Let me get off of that because I was starting to get on a tangent there, and I don't want to get off from rants here. Now entering the top 5. All 5 of these guys I'm about to name were in my top 25. So if you haven't checked out that video, click off now. Go watch my top 25 video. I'll give you like a couple seconds. Go do that. Top 25 video. I worked super hard on that, and yeah, I really enjoyed making that video or podcast. Both actually. It's a podcast and a video. But anyways, so at 5, I got Oscar Robertson, 12-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA. First team 9 times, second team 2 times. He was the 1960-61 Rookie of the Year, 1963 1964 MVP, 1-time champion. He has 181 triple-doubles, which I believe that's first in all-time triple-double ranking. I could be wrong. Yeah, but he was also the first player to average a triple-double. And my one gripe about Oscar is, I brought it up in actually episode 2, is a lot of people have him, fringe top 10 all time. And I find it hard to put him there because of the fact that he didn't really dominate that era. I mean, that was a considerably weak era. And for him to only walk out with, 1 ring and 1 MVP, I find that a little concerning considering how weak that era was. So that's why I ultimately have him lower on my list, because he didn't really truly dominate the era. But I mean, Oscar was one of the first of his kind. He was a big point guard. I think he's listed like 6'5". Kind of did everything for their teams. You can compare him to the guys like Westbrook and Magic and all them, those tall point guards that kind of did everything. You can compare him to Jason Kidd. Yeah. Next, number 4, Jerry West. I had the same graph about Jerry that I have about Oscar. Considerably weaker era, and he didn't really truly dominate it the way I would have expected him to. 14-time All-Star, 12-time All-NBA. He was first team 10 times, second team 2 times. He was 5-time All-Defense, first team 4 times, second team 1 time. He was the 1968-69 Finals MVP, which he did lose the finals. So that I also take that in consideration. He's a 1-time champ. He didn't win Finals MVP in that series, but he's the logo. The NBA won't admit it because they don't want to pay the man, but he's the logo of the league. I mean, you can find pictures and match him up all day. And also, looking at his career steals and blocks averages, 1973-74 was the first season of tracking steals and blocks, which was his final year. So his numbers are kind of inflated, I guess. Or not accurate because, we don't know how truly good of a guy he was getting in the passing lane, or, obviously he wasn't blocking many shots, but, getting a hand on the ball. Same goes for Oscar. Their final seasons were 73-74. So that was the first year of tracking steals and blocks. So they both don't really have accurate reads on that type of stuff. But, overall, both those guys didn't really dominate the way I would have expected them to in a little bit of a weaker era. Had they walked out of there with more championships and more MVPs, yeah, definitely be higher. But right now, I just can't do it. All right, moving in to the top 3. And I think the top 3 is pretty set in stone for me. I don't think there's much convincing you can do to make me change my top 3. So at 3, I got Isiah Thomas. I'm sorry, Pistons Twitter. I saw y'all talking about it the other night, but yeah, I got him at 3. I forgot who said it in the documentary. I believe was it Magic? No, it was Mike. It was Mike. Yeah, Mike said Isiah Thomas is the second best point guard of all time, but I would like to disagree. 12-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA, first team 3 times, second team 2 times. He's the 89-90 Finals MVP, 2-time champion, and he finished 9th all-time in assists at 9,061. And I love Zeke, and I think he's underlooked because of the era he played in. That era was ran by Jordan, Magic, Larry, old Kareem. Like that era was dominated by those, I guess you could say, historical franchises like the Lakers and Celtics and Bulls and all that. So, but I take into consideration what he did do. He got a back-to-back championship in the midst of Magic, Larry, and Jordan's, I guess you could say, prime. He was a 12-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA. He's a Finals MVP, so he should have maybe even had 2 Finals MVPs, but he was most definitely the best player on the winning team. But I think he definitely gets hid in the shadows just because of the 3 guys he was kind of battling for the league spotlight with. And you can see it in the documentary that none of those guys liked Isiah for maybe a lot of reasons, but most importantly is because he kicked their ass a lot. There's only one person to have a winning record against Jordan in the playoffs. And you guessed it, it's Isiah Thomas. I believe he's 36-29 against Isiah Thomas in the finals, which I could be wrong. You'll have to fact check that one, but I'm pretty sure he's 36-29 against Michael Jordan in the playoffs. And throughout the doc, you can see Michael Jordan doesn't like that motherfucker because of how good he was. he's called the babyface assassin for a reason. Wait, no, yeah, called the babyface assassin for a reason. I mean, he will cut your legs out from under you. He does not care. He's a win at all cost type player. Zeke was one of the kind at the point guard position, but ultimately, I have this guy one spot higher than him. At 2, Steph Curry. I feel like this is also a no-brainer. 6-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA, first team 3 times, second team 2 times, third team 1 time. He's two-time MVP, 3-time champ, and he's the first unanimous MVP ever. In his defense, I will say, his first finals win, he should have had the finals MVP. I don't care. Iggy did not deserve that. Iggy got the finals MVP for what? I mean, he locked LeBron up to what LeBron usually averages. I mean, good job, I guess. But, I mean, Steph was the catalyst for that team in the finals. That should have definitely been Steph's finals MVP, which would have made his case even better. But more importantly, I think what goes into putting Steph at 2, because, looking at his stats, I mean, he has 1 more All-NBA appearance, 6 less All-Star appearances. He has 1 more championship. He has 2 more MVPs than Isaiah. And I think if you put Isaiah 2 and Steph 3, I think Steph will pass him in another couple years anyways. But my biggest thing is where the impact thing comes into play here, is that Steph has impacted the game like few people have before. I mean, he's entirely changed the way the game is played. I mean, you can thank Steph, and you can probably even thank Gilbert. Like I said in episode 2, you can thank Gilbert. I don't know why I put such a country accent on that. You can thank Gilbert and Steph for this movement into the space and pace, perimeter centric, shoot the ball, small ball era, making sure that if you can't shoot, you have no place in the league. Which, I mean, obviously, I'm not that big of a fan of it, but you got to respect it. He has changed the way the game will play. And honestly, kids growing up now, they're like 4 or 5 years old. Steph is influencing how they play the game of basketball. And, whether you like it or not, that's just how it is. Kids nowadays are fascinated with shooting a 3-ball. You can thank Steph for that. And I think that's why he's had such an impact, is because he's so polarizing. When he pulls up from 35 foot, it's incredible. You haven't really seen anybody like that before that does it with such confidence and such efficiency. I mean, Steph shot 40, 50, 90, several seasons. I think, no, just one. I think just one season, maybe 2. But, yeah, I think Steph's impact in the game is the reason I have him at 2. And that's no disrespect to Isiah Thomas. Love Isiah Thomas. But if you asked me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, yeah, Isiah Thomas is still 2. I don't know where Steph's at on this list, but it's like the more I watch Steph Curry, the more I'm just in awe. 3 years ago, I hated Steph Curry. I did. Why? I don't really know. Maybe it's because I didn't like the way he played the game. But it's as I've matured in the basketball IQ sense, I guess, you just gotta respect greatness. And it's tough to argue who's greater than who, especially when someone isn't even finished with their career. Like, so many things can happen from here on out. But so guys like LeBron, Steph, KD, I mean, guys that are going to be all-time greats when they finish, let's just sit back and enjoy their career while it's here. Leave the debate for later on down the road. There's so much time to debate. I mean, Bron's only got, I would say, 4 or 5 more years in the league. We don't know what this situation is with KD's Achilles. I mean, we may never see KD the way he is again. So let's stop the debate and just appreciate how great some of these players are. But yeah, so Steph at 2. And at number 1, comes with no surprise, Magic Johnson. 12-time All-Star, 10-time All-NBA. He was first team 9 times, and then he made one All-NBA Jesus Christ. He was first team 9 times, second team 1 time. Thank you. 3-time MVP, 3-time Finals MVP, 5-time champion, and he's 5th all-time in assists at 10,141. And I mean, no doubt, Magic's one of the best players ever to ever touch the game. Magic is incredible, and he's without a doubt right now, no doubt about it, the best point guard to ever play the game. But I think what really is amazing to think is that Magic missed 4 years. Like, he left pretty much still in his prime. He left the game of basketball because he got HIV. If he doesn't hypothetically contract AIDS, I mean, you're looking at a totally different resume here. Like I said, he's still he still left in his prime. Now, towards the back end of his prime, sure, yeah. But I mean, he might be pushing Stockton's assist record. He probably has maybe one more ring, another MVP. I mean, yeah, I mean, Magic was an incredible player. And I think it goes without showing that, you know, he missed 4 seasons of pretty much prime basketball, and he's still the greatest point guard of all time. And I would say he's probably in everybody's top 5. If you want to know where he's at on my list, go check out episode 2. But yeah, Magic Johnson has got the number 1 spot locked up for a while. Steph could challenge it. Steph has a lot of work to do, but Steph could challenge it. I don't really see any other guards in the league right now that have potential to do this. I don't think Chris Paul gets up there. I don't think Westbrook or anyone else makes a run at it. But yeah, other guys I kind of left off the list. Westbrook, in my opinion, needs a ring or another MVP. I mean, him and Nash are kind of eye and eye, in my opinion. And although Westbrook's MVP was well deserved, I decided to give Steve Nash the nod there. But yeah, guys like that, I'm sure I missed somebody that's on y'all's list. And hey, let me know. Hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up in the comments section. I'm more than willing to discuss. Always love discussing, as long as it's a productive discussion and not just something that's going nowhere. Because I don't want to sit there and be in a conversation that's going nowhere, because those are the worst. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for today. It's currently almost 4 in the morning. I just finished up my final few assignments for the semester, so I am done for a couple weeks, and then I go back for a summer semester, so that will be interesting. But yeah, I'm going to try and do some shorter podcast here just to see how they do. I don't know which one will work better. If y'all will like the 33 or 35 minute podcast better, or you'll like the hour longs. I mean, I still plan on doing some hour longs because it's going to be hard to fit some stuff in 35 minutes. But yeah, things to look forward to. Next week, I'll probably end up doing top 10 shooting guards of all time. So be on the lookout for that. Make sure you follow my Twitter so you can stay in touch. You can stay up to date on everything. Subscribe if you're new. Like the video if you liked it. Comment if you want to discuss, because like I said, I'm more than willing to discuss as long as it's productive. And yeah, so I plan on stretching out these couple more weeks. I plan on doing every position unless something happens like sports come back. Then I might postpone that for a little bit and talk actual sports, because yeah, I'm starting out of content. So if there's anything y'all want to talk about or want to hear me talk about, let me know. Either let me know on Twitter, like I said, or hit me in the comment section. I'm always accepting new ideas. Trying to think, is there anything else, a few buzzer beater things to throw in there? I am going to be doing a, I guess, mock draft special, I guess you could say. I plan on doing that once sports return and we actually get like the official draft lottery results and all that, I will be end up doing one of them. So I'm excited about that one. I always do a mock draft every year. That's always fun doing research for that shit and stuff. So yeah, I think this is where I'm going to cut it off at. If you enjoyed the list, like I said, let me know. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day or night or whenever you're listening to this, because like I said, I'm recording this at almost 4 in the morning. So enjoy the rest of your day. Subscribe if you're new. Like the video. Comment. Tell me your top 10. Let me see what y'all are working with. And once again, this is On the Glass Podcast. And this is episode 3, my top 10 point guards of all time. And I will see y'all next week.